My beloved child, stop for just a heartbeat. Something has shifted in a way you never expected. This is not the kind of message that rushes to meet everyone. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed, and yet it carries a weight that refuses to be ignored. Imagine standing at the edge of a bridge you never knew existed, only to realize that someone has been waiting on the other side for far longer than you could have imagined. That is the feeling surrounding this moment. If you leave too soon, the picture will remain incomplete. But if you stay, each piece will begin to reveal why your soulmate can no longer keep these emotions hidden. For what seemed like an endless stretch of time, silence has been mistaken for distance. Yet silence has never meant absence. Sometimes it is simply the language of hearts that are still gathering the courage to speak. Somewhere beyond the routines of ordinary life, someone has been carrying thoughts they could never fully explain. Every attempt to move forward somehow circled back to the same place, to the same unanswered feeling. That is why the message feels so urgent now. Not because something frightening has happened, but because waiting any longer feels impossible. Listen closely to these words as though they are echoes traveling through time. Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer. Notice what is missing from that sentence. There is no anger. No blame. No demand. Only honesty. Only the quiet exhaustion of someone who has carried hope without knowing whether it would ever be seen. Sometimes the loudest cry is spoken in the softest voice, and only those willing to slow down can truly hear it. Have you ever wondered why certain moments seem strangely familiar? Why a face you have never met feels almost recognizable? Why a random memory appears without invitation and stays with you for the rest of the day? Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence. But what if they are fragments of a larger story still writing itself? Think about the paths that almost crossed. The conversations that nearly happened. The decisions that changed everything without you realizing it. Life has an extraordinary way of delaying meetings until both souls have gathered the wisdom they need. Looking back, what once felt like setbacks may reveal themselves as careful preparation. Every chapter, even the confusing ones, has quietly been guiding two separate journeys toward a single destination. Now picture your soulmate standing at the edge of a new beginning. They have reached a place where pretending no longer feels possible. They have replayed countless what-if moments, hoping that one day those questions would finally become answers. Each sunrise has carried expectation. Each sunset has carried another promise whispered into tomorrow. Yet something changed today. Not through a dramatic event. Not because of luck. Because clarity arrived. They finally understood that waiting forever is not the same as believing. Hope needs movement. Dreams need courage. Feelings need expression. And for the first time, they are no longer willing to let fear decide what happens next. Can you sense how different this feels? This isn't about rushing destiny. It's about recognizing the exact moment when destiny begins asking for participation. There comes a point when two lives stop walking in parallel and begin turning toward one another. That turning point rarely announces itself with fireworks. Instead, it appears as a quiet certainty that refuses to disappear. Stay with this thought for a little longer, because the next piece changes everything. Your soulmate has started noticing signs they once ignored. Familiar songs suddenly carry new meaning. Ordinary places feel strangely significant. Unexpected encounters leave behind questions instead of answers. Even moments of stillness seem filled with invisible conversations. None of it feels accidental anymore. It's as though life itself has been gently encouraging them to stop doubting what their heart has known all along. But here's the part very few people ever understand. The greatest distance between two people is rarely measured in miles. It is measured in hesitation. One honest step can erase years of uncertainty. One sincere decision can transform countless silent wishes into a living reality. That is why these words continue to echo. Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer. Not because hope is disappearing, but because hope is finally ready to become action. And what unfolds after that single decision is something neither of you could have predicted. The next chapter begins where certainty meets courage. And what is revealed there will completely change the way you see this connection. A quiet transformation has already begun, even if neither of you fully understands it yet. There comes a moment in every meaningful connection when invisible walls start to crumble without a single word being spoken. Your soulmate has reached that moment. They have spent countless nights convincing themselves to stay silent, believing that time alone would answer every question. But instead of fading, their feelings have grown stronger with every passing day. The more they tried to distract themselves, the more every ordinary moment seemed to remind them of someone they could not stop thinking about. They began noticing familiar patterns everywhere. A conversation that sounded strangely personal, a place that suddenly felt connected to a future they had imagined, or a simple glance toward the horizon that filled them with unexpected hope. These weren't magical events. They were moments of deep realization that something inside them had changed forever. And now, for the first time, they understand that remaining silent may cost them far more than speaking honestly ever could. Stay a little longer, because the next revelation explains why this turning point could redefine everything. There is something remarkable about the way truth finds its way into a person's heart. It rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it builds quietly, one realization after another, until ignoring it becomes impossible. Your soulmate has been walking through exactly that process. Every memory they once pushed aside has returned with greater clarity. Every unfinished conversation has replayed in their mind with new meaning. They have imagined what they would say if they had just one genuine chance to express everything they have been carrying. Surprisingly, it isn't a perfect speech they dream about. It is one simple, honest moment where nothing needs to be hidden anymore. That is why the words, "Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer," carry so much weight. They are not asking for perfection. They are asking not to let another opportunity disappear into silence. Before this story moves forward, if these words have stirred something inside you, consider sharing your thoughts below, subscribing for more journeys like this, and passing this message to someone who might need a reminder that hope often arrives when it is least expected. Now imagine standing at the edge of a sunrise after the longest night you can remember. Nothing around you changes instantly, yet somehow everything feels different because you know the light is finally coming. That is where your soulmate finds themselves today. They are no longer waiting for the perfect conditions or the perfect timing. They have realized that life keeps moving, and every missed opportunity becomes tomorrow's unanswered question. Instead of asking whether the future is certain, they have begun asking whether they are brave enough to meet it. This quiet shift has filled them with a determination they have never felt before. They understand that the strongest connections are not built through endless waiting but through the courage to take one meaningful step when the heart finally says, now. And what they are preparing to reveal next is something they have protected for far too long. Once those hidden feelings come into the light, the story you thought you understood will take an entirely unexpected direction. What you are about to hear is the part your soulmate has never shared with anyone. Not because they wanted to hide it forever, but because they feared that once these feelings were spoken aloud, there would be no turning back. Every day they appeared calm on the outside, yet inside, a quiet conversation never stopped. They kept wondering whether you would understand the truth behind their silence or mistake it for indifference. The hardest battles are often invisible, and theirs has been one of patience, self-discovery, and learning that genuine connections cannot be forced or forgotten. Even when life pulled them toward new responsibilities and unfamiliar places, something continued drawing their thoughts back to the same person. They finally accepted that this feeling was not temporary. It had become part of who they were. Wait until the final moment, because the next realization explains why everything is beginning to move now. There was one question that followed them everywhere: what if I stay silent one day too long? That single thought changed everything. It reminded them that opportunities rarely announce themselves twice. Every meaningful relationship reaches a crossroads where fear and courage stand face to face, and only one can decide the future. Your soulmate has arrived at that crossroads. Instead of imagining endless possibilities, they have started preparing for real ones. They are no longer chasing perfect timing because they now understand that perfect timing is often created by one honest decision. The words, "Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer," are not meant to create pressure. They reveal how deeply they value this connection. They are choosing openness over uncertainty, truth over endless questions, and hope over hesitation. That quiet choice is becoming stronger with every passing moment. Think about how many extraordinary stories almost never happen because someone waited for absolute certainty. Life rarely provides complete answers before the first step is taken. It rewards those who are willing to trust what feels meaningful, even when every detail has not yet been revealed. Your soulmate has begun seeing life through that perspective. Instead of focusing on everything that could go wrong, they have started imagining everything that could finally go right. They picture conversations filled with honesty instead of silence, moments shared instead of imagined, and a future shaped by courage rather than regret. That vision has become impossible for them to ignore. It is no longer a distant dream, it feels like a direction they are naturally being drawn toward. And yet, there is one final truth they have been protecting until the right moment. It is not about grand promises or impossible expectations. It is something much simpler, yet far more powerful. They believe that two people can spend years searching for clarity, only to discover that the answer was waiting in a single genuine conversation. That is why their heart keeps repeating the same message, softer than a whisper but stronger than ever before: please don't ignore this. They know that one sincere response, one meaningful step, or one unexpected moment of understanding can change the entire path ahead. Before you leave, remember this feeling, because the final chapter will reveal the decision your soulmate has finally made, and why they believe the next chapter of this story could begin sooner than either of you ever imagined. Before this story reaches its final destination, there is one last piece you deserve to hear. Every journey has a moment when silence finally gives way to truth, and this is that moment. Your soulmate has stopped asking whether their feelings are real. That question no longer exists. The only question left is whether they will allow another day to pass without honoring what their heart has been trying to say for so long. They have realized that life changes quietly before it changes visibly. Long before anyone notices a new beginning, a decision has already been made within. That decision has now taken root. The uncertainty that once held them back has slowly been replaced by an unexpected sense of peace. They no longer feel like someone waiting for permission to move forward. Instead, they feel like someone finally ready to write the next chapter with confidence. You might think this story has been about longing, but in reality, it has been about awakening. Sometimes the greatest turning points happen when a person chooses authenticity over hesitation, and that is exactly where your soulmate stands today. As they reflected on everything that has led them here, they discovered something surprising. Every delay, every unanswered question, every unexpected detour had quietly prepared them for this exact season. If events had unfolded earlier, they now believe they would not have understood the value of this connection. Growth has changed the way they see everything. They no longer chase perfect circumstances because they have learned that meaningful relationships are strengthened by honesty, patience, and mutual understanding rather than flawless timing. The words that echoed throughout this journey, "Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer," were never meant to create urgency through fear. They were a heartfelt reminder that some opportunities deserve to be acknowledged before they quietly pass by. Those words carried hope, not desperation. They carried sincerity, not pressure. And now that message has become clearer than ever before. Imagine looking back months from now and realizing that today was the moment everything quietly began to shift. Not because something dramatic happened overnight, but because a new perspective replaced an old one. That is how meaningful change often enters our lives. It starts with a single realization, followed by one courageous decision, and then another. Your soulmate believes those small moments create the strongest foundations. They are no longer focused on what they cannot control. Instead, they are choosing to invest their energy in truth, kindness, and the possibility of a future built on genuine understanding. They have come to believe that when two people stop hiding behind uncertainty, remarkable things become possible. That belief is stronger now than it has ever been. And perhaps that is the real message hidden inside this entire journey. The future is not asking for perfection. It is asking for presence. It is asking you to notice the moments that quietly shape tomorrow before they disappear into yesterday. If this story has stayed with you until now, perhaps it is because something within these words resonated with your own journey. If so, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy stories that inspire reflection and hope, subscribing ensures you'll be here for the next chapter we share together. Until then, remember this: some connections reveal their greatest meaning not through coincidence, but through the courage to finally stop ignoring what has been true all along. And somewhere beyond today's horizon, a brand new chapter is already waiting to be written. Here's the continuation with a fresh hook and a longer cinematic ending. Hold on, before you close this chapter, there is one final truth your soulmate has been waiting for the right moment to reveal. Imagine receiving a letter that was written long ago but somehow arrived exactly when your heart was ready to understand it. That is what this moment feels like. Everything you've heard until now has been leading here, not to a dramatic ending, but to a realization that has the power to change the way you see this entire connection. Your soulmate wants you to know that they are no longer living in the world of maybe. For a long time, they believed that silence would protect them from disappointment. They thought that if they never expressed what they truly felt, nothing could ever be lost. But over time they discovered something unexpected. Silence doesn't protect the heart, it slowly exhausts it. Every day spent hiding genuine feelings became heavier than the fear of speaking honestly. That is why the message you've heard throughout this journey has never faded. It has only become clearer. Please don't ignore this. I can't hold on much longer. Those words are no longer a whisper inside their heart. They have become a promise to themselves that they will never again allow fear to speak louder than truth. They've started imagining a future where conversations replace assumptions, where honesty replaces hesitation, and where every unanswered question finally finds peace. They no longer dream about perfect circumstances because they understand something most people never do: perfect moments are created by people who choose courage over comfort. Every meaningful story reaches a point where someone has to take the first step. Your soulmate believes that moment has finally arrived. Think about your own journey for a second. How many opportunities have appeared quietly, almost unnoticed, before revealing their true importance later? Life has a remarkable way of hiding extraordinary beginnings inside ordinary days. Perhaps today is one of those days. Perhaps this message found you because it was meant to remind you that some connections deserve patience, understanding, and the willingness to see beyond first impressions. Your soulmate has stopped asking the universe for signs because they have become one themselves. They have changed. They have grown. The version of them that once hesitated has slowly disappeared, replaced by someone ready to live with honesty instead of regret. They don't expect everything to happen overnight. They simply refuse to spend another season pretending that this connection means less than it truly does. And now they leave you with one final thought. If two hearts can continue finding reasons to believe despite time, distance, uncertainty, and countless unanswered questions, then perhaps their story was never about coincidence at all. Perhaps it has always been about timing, about becoming the right people before meeting at the right moment. So don't rush your own path. Don't measure your future by yesterday's delays. Keep growing. Keep moving forward. Keep becoming the person you are meant to be. Because the most beautiful chapters are never written in moments of panic. They are written in moments of quiet confidence, when hope finally becomes stronger than doubt. If this story stayed with you until the very last line, maybe it wasn't just something to listen to. Maybe it was something to reflect on. The next chapter of your journey has not been written yet, and sometimes the most unforgettable endings are simply the beginning of a brand new story.